Well, here we are back again with another session of our class. And we want to talk about Kelo versus New London today. I'm Rob Dawalt, and I'm the instructor. This is my private email if you need to reach me. Remember, you can also message me in the class. Case this time, what we're talking about is Kelo v. New London. And this is a relatively recent case, but it is extremely controversial. So we're going to work our way down through some of the content, and then we'll kind of talk to you and try to make some comparisons. 2005, so now it's 8 years old, but in the context of some of these ones we've been looking at, like Lochner from 1905, and then we're going to have another one here in a few minutes, Griswold from the 60s. You've got to consider, number of things, and so it's relatively new, let's put it like that. Well, one thing on this is this is in New London, Connecticut. And what we have is it's a city in Connecticut used eminent domain to seize the private property of this couple, and then they wanted to sell it to private developers to build a combination use property which involves condos and stores and shops and this type of thing. And this is all the rage right now out in the East. You're starting to see a little bit back here in Indiana, but generally speaking, all up and down the East Coast, you're seeing these combined use properties where they have, let's say, Starbucks on the first floor and maybe 4 or 5 floors of condos up above. So you can ride the elevator down from your condominium and go into Starbucks, have a cup of coffee, or maybe next will be a Subway, or on down Quiznos, or even bookstores, clothing stores, whatever seems to fit in that grouping. I went to a number of these when I was doing my doctoral work out in Baltimore, and quite frankly, they are very nice. And the thing about it is, when you can use property to its full extent like this, it'll generate a lot of taxes, and that's really why the city wanted to do it, because they could hit all the condo owners for property tax, they could hit all of the store owners for property tax, plus they had employees that would be paying local taxes in. So there's a number of things like that that can generate income, and that is what they're calling, for their part, the public use in this case. But I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, and so the issue becomes the Fifth Amendment taking clause. That would be the rule aspect of it, is that under the Fifth Amendment, it says that, the government cannot take property without due process of law, and it has to be for just compensation, So there's basic elements. This has to be truly for public use and just compensation. Basically, the owners in this case said that, this has been our family home and has a beautiful view. We didn't want to give it up. We want to live out all of our days here. They're a little bit older. They're not terribly elderly, but they were older. And they didn't want to give up their home. They wanted to keep living in their home. And so basically the question before the court was, did the city violate the Fifth Amendment taking clause when it took private property in order to turn around and resell it to another private development? And so the question then is, where is the public use in that? And that's what they're saying, is that just selling property for the purpose of generating taxes may not be a sufficient public use. And some examples of public uses that I'm aware of is that we were building a bridge, and the newer bridges have to be wider because the vehicles are wider. So the old bridge that we took down was a wooden bridge, and it was very dangerous. One of the bridges actually caught on fire. The other thing was that we had to have a basically enough of a area that the way they've got it now with all these safety lanes and things like that, where there had to be some room for these metal shoulder guards that come down. So we had to buy some property from a couple of different people, and of course they weren't happy about it. But obviously everybody needs a bridge, so we can see that a bridge would be necessary. Another thing about a fire station. You need fire protection in these different neighborhoods, and as you get this suburban sprawl, sometimes it wasn't planned well enough ahead, so you have to come back in and retrofit in a fire station in there based on the population, because you really didn't have the vision of how much growth there was going to be in this area. Now, a lot of communities are really much better planned today. They have planning and zoning, and so they always set aside some land for fire stations and things like that, even churches sometimes. But in the some of the earlier suburban developments, it just happened really fast. And so it is important for fire stations, schools, hospitals and things like that. These are all really clear public uses. I know one time in Indianapolis there's quite a case on just having a buffer zone for the airport because of the sound from the planes taking off and landing. And people didn't want to give up their home because they said that buffer zone wasn't necessary. Well, I think if I remember right, the court agreed that they didn't need that much land. So once again, though, if you know the Indianapolis airport as it looks today, they obviously did need the land. Well, anyway, bottom line here is a 5-4 opinion. So these 5-4 opinions are always kind of shaky. And so it's the age-old story is, where is the general welfare in this? So again, our old scales come back up on here, and so safety or general welfare are basically the same thing, okay? And then this again is freedom, freedom to live out your days in your own home without anybody interfering. So in this particular case, not so much safety, but general welfare of all the public. So it has to have what we call a public purpose, okay? So we kind of see where we're headed with this, and what they're saying basically in this case is taxation is a public purpose. That is a good public purpose. So it was approved by the majority, it was disapproved by the minority, and it's really kind of an odd mix of justices, because it wasn't like liberals versus conservatives. It was kind of an oddball mix of some liberals on one side, some liberals on the other side, some conservatives on one side, some conservatives on the other side. So again, take a good look at this. The crazy thing though on this case that you need to know is that right after 2005, obviously, we know what happened, and that's the economic downturn of 2008. So last time I checked, at least, nothing's even happened with this land. It just sits empty. So it was all for nothing. The people went to all this trouble, spent all this money on legal fees, and ended up with a vacant lot. So it didn't work out for anybody in the thing either way. Hopefully yet still though, time will pass and they'll find some good use for this land. But it was unfortunate, to say the least. Well, thanks for watching. We're going to move on, and we'll come back right away with another one of these videos on yet another case. So take care, be back with you shortly.